Sometimes the best intentions lead straight to the worst truths. What began as a heartfelt surprise trip to Boston with my kids quickly turned into a nightmare I never imagined. One hotel door, one moment of honesty, and suddenly 17 years of marriage were hanging by a thread. They say what happens in hotel rooms stays there, but some secrets don't know how to stay hidden. My name is Michael Anderson. Mike to my friends. I'm 50 years old, have been married to my wife Rebecca for almost 20 years, and together we have two amazing kids, Curtis, 15, and growing faster than I can keep up with, and Sophie, my 10-year-old princess who still believes her dad hangs the moon. That Wednesday morning started like any other, when Becca was away on a business trip. Me trying to herd the kids through breakfast before school. Curtis sat with his face buried in his phone. Sophie poked at her cereal, and I was downing coffee like it was the elixir of life. Becca had already been gone for 3 days on a consulting job in Boston, with 4 more to go. 7 days total, longer than her usual trips, and we were all feeling her absence. I love my wife, and I hated seeing the kids miss her so much. So while she was away, I decided the 3 of us would surprise her by flying out to see her. The idea hit me like a lightning bolt as I watched Sophie push her Cheerios around her bowl. "Hey, what if we go see Mom this weekend?" I said, setting my mug down. Sophie's eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. "Really? Like, just show up?" "Yeah," I nodded, already feeling the excitement build. "We could book flights today and be there by tomorrow evening." Imagine her face when she opens her hotel door. Curtis finally looked up from his phone. "That would actually be pretty cool," he said, which, coming from a teenager, is basically wild enthusiasm. By noon, I'd called in a favor at work to take Friday off, arranged for the kids to miss school, and booked 3 tickets to Boston. The whole time, I kept picturing Rebecca's face, the shock, the joy, the tears. I hadn't surprised her like that in years. I tried calling her that morning, but the call went straight to voicemail, not unusual during her intense consulting sessions. I sent a text. "Miss you. Kids are asking when you're coming home. Love you." No response. A little odd, but I told myself she was busy. That evening, while I packed our bags, I tried calling again. Still nothing. A small knot formed in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. Boston was hosting a major business conference. She was probably networking, making connections, doing what she did best. The consulting world was cutthroat, and Rebecca was a shark in high heels. When I tucked Sophie into bed, she hugged her favorite stuffed bunny tight to her chest. "Do you think Mommy will cry when she sees us?" she asked, eyes wide with anticipation. "Maybe, sweetheart," I said, kissing her forehead. "It's going to be the best surprise ever." I had no idea how wrong I was. No idea that the real surprise in Boston wasn't the one we brought, but the one waiting for us, ready to break our family apart. The flight to Boston wasn't long, but it felt endless. Curtis had his headphones on, lost in whatever music teenagers are into these days. Sophie chatted non-stop about everything she wanted to tell her mom, while I sat between them, trying to suppress a growing, heavy sense of unease. I tried calling Rebecca 3 more times before we boarded. Nothing. Straight to voicemail, not even a ring. I sent another text. "Hope your meetings are going well. Miss you." The message status showed delivered, but still no reply. "Dad, why are you checking your phone every 5 seconds?" Curtis asked, sliding one earphone off. The kid never missed a thing. "Just making sure our rental car is confirmed," I lied, forcing a smile. The truth was, something felt off. Rebecca and I had been married nearly 20 years. We'd had our ups and downs like any couple, but she had never gone this long without a single call or text, especially to the kids. She always made time for them. When we landed at Logan Airport, I tried once more. Voicemail again. I left a message trying to keep my tone casual. "Hey babe, just checking in. Give me a call when you get a chance." The rental car process was a disaster. Wrong reservation, long lines, Sophie needing the bathroom twice. By the time we finally got on the road toward downtown Boston, it was already past 8 in the evening. Rush hour had faded, but the city buzzed with Thursday night energy. "Dad, I'm hungry," Sophie whined from the back seat. "Yeah, me too," Curtis added, finally interested in something other than his phone. "Can we eat before we see Mom?" "Let's get to the hotel first," I said, my knuckles tight on the steering wheel. "Maybe Mom can join us for a late dinner." As we neared the Marriott where Rebecca was staying, that knot in my stomach pulled tighter. I tried calling again, and this time, oddly, it actually rang. But still, no answer. The revolving doors of the hotel greeted us with a rush of warm air. The lobby was elegant, marble floors, soft lighting, the quiet murmur of business travelers. Curtis and Sophie looked around, impressed by the upscale surroundings. My wife always stayed in nice places on the company's dime. "Why don't you guys wait here?" I said. I pointed to some plush couches near the lobby windows. "Why don't you two wait here?" I said. "I'll check us in and find out what room Mom's in." Sophie bounced on her toes, barely able to contain herself. "Can we surprise her right away?" I nodded, trying to sound as upbeat as she felt, even though the enthusiasm was already slipping from my chest. "That's the plan, sweetheart." As I walked toward the front desk, I had no idea I was heading straight into the moment that would change everything. "Good evening, sir. How can I help you?" The receptionist, a young woman with a polished smile, greeted me. I cleared my throat. "I'd like to check in, and I also need to get in touch with my wife. She's staying here, Rebecca Anderson." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "Let me check that for you." A few seconds passed. "Yes, Mrs. Anderson is staying with us. Would you like me to ring her room?" "Please," I said, feeling a wave of relief. At least Rebecca was here. The receptionist dialed, waited, then frowned slightly. "I'm sorry, sir. There's no answer." "Could you try again?" I asked, that knot in my stomach pulling tighter. Maybe she didn't hear it. She tried once more, same result. "I'm sorry, there's still no answer. Would you like to leave a message?" "No, that's okay." I handed over my credit card. "We'll just check in for now. My wife is expecting us, sort of. It's a surprise visit." Something flickered across her face. Maybe hesitation, maybe concern. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "I see. Well, let me get you set up." She finished the process and slid 2 key cards across the counter. "You're in room 732. Mrs. Anderson is in 718. "Different floors?" I asked, confused. "No, same floor," she replied. "Just down the hall from each other." She paused, then added, almost reluctantly, "It looks like Mrs. Anderson checked in with a +1, though." The world seemed to stop for a second. "A +1? What do you mean?" Her expression shifted to discomfort. "The reservation shows 2 guests in her room. I assumed—" "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything." I forced out a laugh that sounded hollow, even to my own ears. "No, it's fine. Probably a colleague sharing the room to save on expenses." But I knew better. Rebecca's company always paid for private rooms for their consultants. It was something they bragged about. I gathered our bags and headed back to Curtis and Sophie, my mind racing. A work friend, maybe a female colleague. Or I couldn't even finish the thought. "Did you find Mom?" Sophie asked, practically vibrating with excitement. "Not yet, sweetheart," I said. "Let's go up to our room first and freshen up." The elevator ride was quiet except for Sophie's soft humming. Curtis gave me a look that said he knew something was wrong, but thankfully he didn't say anything. Our room was nice, standard upscale hotel stuff. I set the bags down and took a steadying breath. "Can we go see Mom now?" Sophie pleaded. "In a minute," I replied. "Why don't you two wash up? It's been a long day." While they were distracted in the bathroom, I slipped out into the hallway and walked toward room 718. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I raised my hand and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. But now I could hear sounds from inside, faint music, the murmur of voices, and then laughter. My blood turned to ice. I pulled out my phone and typed, "I'm outside your hotel room door. Open up!" The movement inside stopped suddenly. Silence. Then I heard a man's muffled voice. I closed my eyes, suddenly certain of what I was about to find on the other side of that door. The door to room 718 opened slowly. Rebecca stood there in a hotel bathrobe, hair messy, face flushed. Her expression flipped rapidly from shock to fear, and finally settled into something that disturbingly resembled annoyance. "Jason, what are you doing here?" she hissed, stepping into the hallway and pulling the door almost shut behind her. I just stared at her for a moment, words stuck in my throat. Finally, I managed to speak. "Surprise?" I said flatly. "The kids and I thought we'd come see you." Her eyes widened. "The kids are here?" At the hotel? In our room, down the hall, I said, my voice sounding far away even to myself. They've been excited all day to see you. Rebecca ran a shaky hand through her hair and glanced nervously back at the door. You should have called first, Mike. You should have called. I did, I cut in, multiple times. I folded my arms. Who's in your room, Becca? She flinched at the direct question. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think you have another man in there. Am I wrong? The door opened a little wider, and a man stepped into view behind her, tall, fit, maybe early 40s. He was in the middle of buttoning his shirt. Becca, everything okay out here? He asked. My vision narrowed until he was the only thing I could see, this stranger, standing half-dressed in my wife's doorway, calling her Becca, my name for her. Who the hell are you? I asked, my voice low and dangerously calm. Mike, please, Rebecca started, but I cut her off with a raised hand. No, I want to hear it from him. I stepped closer. Who are you, and why are you in my wife's hotel room? The man looked genuinely confused, eyes darting between Rebecca and me. I'm Trevor from the Chicago office, he said. He started to extend his hand out of habit, then thought better of it and let it drop. I didn't know Becca was married. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I turned to Rebecca. She at least had the decency to look ashamed, but not nearly ashamed enough. You told him you were single? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Rebecca closed her eyes for a moment. Can we please not do this in the hallway? Trevor, maybe you should go. Yeah, Trevor, I said, staring him down. I echoed, my anger finally finding a target. Yeah, Trevor, maybe you should go. Trevor lifted his hands in surrender. Look, man, I had no idea. She never mentioned a husband or kids. He reached into the room, grabbed his jacket, and stepped fully into the hallway. I'm out of here. He hurried past us and disappeared down the corridor, leaving Rebecca and me alone in a silence so thick it was hard to breathe. 17 years, Becca, I finally said. 17 years, and you're picking up guys on business trips? It's not like that, she snapped, her shame hardening into defensiveness. You don't understand. Then explain it to me, I shot back. Explain why our children flew across the country to surprise their mother, only to find her with another man. She looked away. You should have called first. Those words, the sheer audacity of them, broke something inside me. Are you serious right now? I whispered. This is somehow my fault because I didn't warn you before catching you cheating? That's your angle? Lower your voice, she hissed, glancing nervously down the hallway. The kids are waiting, I said, stepping back. Sophie has been bouncing off the walls all day about seeing you. What do you want to tell her? Guilt finally seemed to crack through her facade. Give me 5 minutes to get dressed. I'll come to your room. I turned to walk away, then paused and looked back. How long has this been going on, Rebecca? She couldn't meet my eyes. This was just a one-time thing, a mistake. Trevor's words echoed in my head. I didn't know Becca was married. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. As I walked back toward our room to face our children, I knew nothing about our lives would ever be the same again. The walk down that hallway felt like crossing a desert. Every step took effort, my body suddenly weighed down by what I'd just seen and heard. How was I supposed to look my kids in the eye? What was I even going to say? I stopped outside our door, took a deep breath, and forced my face into something resembling normal. The key card beeped, and I pushed the door open. Dad, did you find Mom? Sophie jumped up from the bed where she'd been watching TV. Curtis looked up from his phone, his eyes narrowing as he studied my face. What's wrong? He asked immediately, too perceptive for his own good. Mom's coming in a few minutes, I managed. She was surprised to see us. Is she happy? Did she cry? Sophie asked, clapping her hands. She was definitely surprised, I said, dodging Curtis's searching stare. Hey, why don't we order some room service? You guys must be hungry after the flight. Already ahead of you, Curtis replied, still watching me carefully. We ordered burgers and fries. And chocolate cake, Sophie added, bouncing on the bed. I nodded and tried to smile. Perfect. A knock sounded at the door. Sophie squealed, Mom's here, and sprinted across the room. Before I could stop her, she yanked the door open and launched herself at Rebecca, who stood in the hallway looking perfectly put together, hair brushed, makeup flawless, dressed in a professional outfit. If I hadn't seen her 10 minutes earlier in a bathrobe with a half-dressed man behind her, I would never have suspected a thing. "Mommy," Sophie squealed, wrapping her arms around Rebecca's waist. "Ah, sweetheart," Rebecca said, hugging her back. "What a surprise to see you all." Her eyes met mine over Sophie's head, and I saw the silent plea there. "Please, play along, for the kids." Curtis still hadn't moved from the bed. "Hey, Mom," he said, his tone carefully neutral. Rebecca crossed the room and kissed the top of his head. "Hey, buddy, you've grown since I left." "It's been a week, Mom," he replied dryly. An awkward silence followed, broken only by Sophie's excited recap of our entire trip. Airport, plane, rental car, everything. Rebecca nodded in the right places, occasionally glancing my way, but I couldn't bring myself to hold her gaze. "Dad said we could all have dinner together," Sophie finished proudly. "Room service is bringing burgers." Rebecca's smile slipped for just a second. "That sounds wonderful," she said, "but I actually have a work dinner tonight. Important clients." I let out a harsh laugh that I quickly disguised as a cough. Sophie's face fell. "But we came all this way to see you," she protested. "I know, honey," Rebecca said softly, cupping her cheek. "And I'm so happy you did. I'll be all yours tomorrow, I promise. We can see the sights, do whatever you want." She turned to me. "Can I talk to you in the hallway for a minute, Mike?" Curtis rolled his eyes. "Real subtle, Mom." I followed Rebecca back into the hallway, leaving the door slightly ajar in case Sophie needed me. "Work dinner," I said once we were alone. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Rebecca's polished composure started to crack. "Mike, please, I just need some time to figure this out." "Figure what out?" I shot back. "How to lie to your family, because you seem to have that part down." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "That's not fair." "Not fair?" I kept my voice low, mindful that the kids were just a few feet away. "You know what's not fair, Rebecca? Our daughter made us check 3 different stores for her favorite travel pillow so she could bring it to you. Curtis actually looked up from his phone long enough to help me book the flights. Do you have any idea how excited they were to see you?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Mike, I made a terrible mistake. I know that. But please don't tell the kids, not yet." "So, I'm supposed to pretend everything's fine?" I asked with a bitter laugh. "Put on a show while you go back to your client dinner?" "It really is a client dinner," she insisted. "Trevor won't be there. I need this account, Mike. It's worth millions to the firm." I stared at her, realizing I didn't even recognize the woman standing in front of me. "Your career," I said slowly. "That's what you're worried about right now?" "No, of course not," she muttered, rubbing her temples. "I'm trying to salvage whatever I can from this disaster," she said quietly. "Please, Mike, one night. Let me get through this dinner, and then tomorrow we can figure everything out." "There's nothing to figure out," I replied flatly. "You cheated on me. You lied to our children. You've been living a double life, and I don't even know for how long." She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. "It wasn't a double life," she protested. "It was one mistake." Trevor's words echoed in my head. I didn't know Becca was married. "Save it," I said, turning back toward our room. "Go to your dinner. I'll take care of the kids." "What are you going to tell them?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. "I haven't decided yet." My hand rested on the door handle. But unlike you, I don't lie to my children. Back inside, Sophie was bouncing on the bed, excitement pouring out of her like sunshine. "Is Mom coming to dinner with us?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "Not tonight, sweetheart. Mom has an important work thing she can't miss." Her face fell, and the look of disappointment on her small features made my chest ache. "But we came all this way to surprise her," she whispered. "I know, honey," I said, sitting beside her and pulling her close. And she was surprised. She just has to finish some work first. But guess what? She's all ours tomorrow, the whole day. Curtis was watching me, his expression unreadable. "Where's she going tonight?" he asked. "A client dinner," I said. The lie tasted like acid on my tongue. "Uh-huh." He looked back at his phone. "Whatever." Sophie, ever the optimist, bounced back quickly. "Can we go see the Boston Harbor tonight instead? My friend Emma said there are cool lights and boats." The idea of playing tourist while my marriage burned down around me seemed impossible, but Sophie's hopeful eyes shattered my resistance. "Sure," I said. "Why not? Let's finish dinner and then check it out." Sweet! She grabbed another French fry from the room service tray. This is still the best surprise ever, Dad. Curtis caught my eye over the top of his phone and raised an eyebrow, silently calling me out on my lie. I gave him a slight shake of my head, a promise to explain later. He nodded almost imperceptibly. At 15, he was already more man than boy, and in that moment, I was deeply grateful for his quiet understanding. That night, as we walked along the harbor, Sophie skipped ahead, pointing out every boat she saw. Curtis fell into step beside me. "Mom's cheating, isn't she?" he asked quietly. I nearly stumbled, caught off guard by his bluntness. "Curtis, just tell me the truth, Dad," he said. "I'm not a kid anymore." I looked at my son, tall, serious, suddenly so grown up. "Yes," I admitted at last. "I think she is." His question hung between us, far too adult for a 15-year-old, but impossible to dodge. "What makes you think that?" I asked finally, watching Sophie dart ahead to stare at a massive yacht tied to the dock. Curtis shrugged, shoving his hands deeper into his pockets. "The way you're acting, the way she looked at you. Plus, when you left to find Mom, you came back looking like someone died. Smart kid, too smart." "I don't want to lie to you," I said quietly. "But this is complicated, Curtis. It's adult stuff." "I'm not a child, Dad," he said firmly. "I'd rather know the truth than sit around wondering what's happening to our family." I took a deep breath, the cold harbor air burning in my lungs. "Yes," I said. "I found your mother with another man." Curtis's jaw tightened, but he didn't look shocked, just sad. "I figured," he muttered. "Ever since she started this consulting gig, she's been different. Always on her phone, staying late at the office, more business trips." A wave of nausea washed over me. Had everyone seen it but me? "You noticed that?" I asked. "Yeah. And so did you, probably. You just didn't want to believe it." There was no accusation in his voice, just a weary understanding far beyond his years. "Dad! Curtis!" Sophie called from ahead, waving frantically. "Come look at this boat. It has a helicopter on it." "Be right there, sweetie," I called, forcing some brightness into my tone. Curtis kicked at a loose stone on the path. "What happens now?" he asked. "Are you guys getting divorced?" The word hit like a punch. "I don't know yet, buddy," I said honestly. "This just happened, but whatever happens between your mom and me, nothing changes how much we both love you and Sophie. That part is constant," he scoffed. "If she loved us, she wouldn't have done this." "It's not that simple," I said, even though part of me agreed with him. "Adults mess up sometimes. They make really bad choices." "This isn't like forgetting to pay the electric bill, Dad," Curtis said, his voice hardening. "She chose to cheat." We caught up to Sophie, who was pressed against the railing, staring at the luxury yacht. "Look, it's bigger than our whole house," she shouted. I lifted her onto my shoulders so she could see better, grateful for her unbroken innocence. "Pretty impressive, huh?" As Sophie chattered on about the yacht and the helicopter on deck, Curtis stood a little apart, his teenage face shadowed with something older. Hurt, disappointment, and a quiet, simmering anger. I could see him processing, deciding what this meant for him, for us. "Don't tell Sophie," he said softly when she got distracted by another boat gliding past. "She still thinks Mom hangs the moon." "I won't," I promised. "Not yet anyway. But someday, we'll have to talk about it. All of us." He nodded, then surprised me by leaning slightly against my side, the closest thing to a hug I'd gotten from him in years. "We'll be okay, Dad," he said. "You, me, and Sophie." In that moment, my 15-year-old son was trying to comfort me, and it almost broke me. But it also gave me something I desperately needed: strength. "Yeah," I said, putting my arm around his shoulders. "We will." When we finally headed back to the hotel, Sophie was half asleep on my shoulders, the day's excitement finally catching up with her. Curtis walked beside us, unusually quiet, the weight of our conversation hanging over us like a storm cloud. "I'm tired, Daddy," Sophie mumbled as we stepped into the elevator. I shifted Sophie higher on my shoulder and pressed the button for our floor. "I know, sweetheart," I murmured. "We'll get you into bed soon." The elevator doors slid open and my heart sank. Rebecca was standing right outside our room, arms crossed, foot tapping impatiently. When she saw us, her expression flipped instantly from irritation to concern. "Where have you been? I've been calling for hours," she demanded. We went to see the harbor, I replied evenly, adjusting Sophie on my shoulder. I left my phone in the room. Curtis brushed past her without a word, swiped the key card, and walked straight into our room. "Curtis, what's wrong, honey?" she called after him. He ignored her completely. The door shut behind him. "What did you tell him?" she hissed at me. "The truth," I said simply. He asked, and I wasn't going to lie to him. Rebecca's face paled. "You had no right to do that without discussing it with me first." "Lower your voice," I warned, nodding toward the half-asleep Sophie. "And I had every right. You gave up your say when you decided to cheat on our family." Rebecca recoiled as if I'd slapped her. "Mike, please, can we talk about this rationally?" "How was your dinner with the clients?" I asked coolly. "Productive," she said stiffly. "We landed the account." "Congratulations," I said, unable to hide the bitterness. "Your career is certainly thriving." "That's not fair." "Life's not fair, Becca. Our son now knows his mother as a cheater. Our daughter is going to figure it out soon enough. Nothing about this is fair." Sophie stirred on my shoulder. "Daddy." "Why are you and Mommy fighting?" she mumbled, Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "We're not fighting, sweetie, just having a grown-up talk." "It sounded like fighting," Sophie whispered. I rubbed her back gently. "It's okay, princess. Let's get you to bed." I moved past Rebecca and into our room, but she caught my arm. "Mike, we need to talk, privately." "Not tonight," I said firmly. "I need to put our daughter to bed." Inside, Curtis was sitting on his bed, headphones on, staring straight at the wall. He didn't acknowledge his mother when she followed us in. I helped Sophie change into her pajamas and tucked her under the blankets, her eyelids already heavy. "Good night, baby girl. Sweet dreams." "Night, Daddy. Night, Mommy," she mumbled, already drifting off. Rebecca stood awkwardly at the foot of the bed, clearly unsure where she fit in this new version of our family. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered, leaning down to kiss Sophie's forehead. Once Sophie was asleep, Rebecca gestured toward the door. "Can we talk in my room, please?" I glanced at Curtis, whose back was still turned to us, shoulders tense. "You gonna be okay?" I asked quietly. He pulled one headphone off. "I'm fine. Go talk. Sort this mess out." His voice was flat, emotionless. Rebecca flinched at his tone but said nothing. In the hallway, I followed her in silence to her room, the same door I'd knocked on earlier, the same room where I'd found her with another man. The irony wasn't lost on me. She swiped her key card and opened the door. The room had been cleaned, bed made, towels replaced, no visible trace of the afternoon's betrayal. But I could still feel it, thick in the air like a smell that wouldn't quite fade. "Curtis hates me," she said at last, breaking the silence. "He's hurt," I corrected. "We all are." Rebecca sank onto the edge of the bed, her composure finally falling apart. "I made a terrible mistake, Mike. I don't know what I was thinking." "That's just it," I said, staying by the door. "You weren't thinking about us at all." The room felt foreign now, tainted. I couldn't bring myself to sit on the bed where, hours earlier, she'd destroyed everything we'd built. "I don't even know where to start," she said, getting up to pace. "How about with the truth, for once?" My voice was calmer than I felt. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated just a beat too long for me to believe whatever came next. "It was just this once, Mike. A moment of weakness." "Trevor didn't sound like it was a one-time thing," I replied. "He didn't even know you were married. How does that happen if this is your first time?" Rebecca's shoulders slumped. "We've been talking for a few months, flirting. It started at a conference in Chicago. So, this wasn't your first business trip déjà vu," I said. She closed her eyes. "No." The confirmation, though expected, still sliced through me. I leaned back against the wall for support. "How many times?" I asked. "How many men?" "Just Trevor," she said quickly. 3 times. I know that doesn't make it better, but... "No," I cut in. "It doesn't." I shook my head, almost laughing at the insane simplicity of it. 17 years, Becca, 3 kids. And you risked all of it for what? A little excitement? An ego boost? "It wasn't like that," she insisted. "We grew apart, Mike. You're always working, always focused on the kids. When was the last time you actually looked at me? Really looked at me as a woman, not just a wife and mother?" Anger flared hot in my chest. "Don't you dare blame this on me. If you felt neglected, you could have talked to me. We could have gone to therapy, taken a trip, done something. Instead, you chose to lie. You chose to cheat. I know, she whispered. I know that now, and I'm so sorry, Mike. More sorry than you can imagine. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught? I asked. She flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Rebecca. Our kids are going to be devastated. Curtis already wants nothing to do with you. Sophie will find out eventually. You blew up our entire family for a fling with some guy from the Chicago office. Silence fell between us, heavy with 20 years of shared history, and the brutal realization that it might all be over. What happens now? She finally asked. I really looked at her then, the woman I'd loved since college, the mother of my children, and a stranger. I'm taking the kids home tomorrow, I said quietly. First flight out. Mike, please, she begged. We can work through this. Couples therapy, a fresh start, whatever it takes. We don't have to throw everything away. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, I admitted. And without trust, what do we even have? 20 years of love, a family, a history, she said desperately. A history you didn't value enough to protect, I replied. I moved toward the door. What are you going to tell Sophie? She asked, voice trembling. My hand rested on the doorknob. I don't know yet, but unlike you, I won't lie to her. The flight home was quiet. Sophie fell asleep almost as soon as we took off, worn out by the emotional whiplash of our aborted vacation. Curtis sat by the window, headphones on, staring out at the clouds, occasionally glancing at me with a mix of concern and something else. Respect, maybe. I hadn't slept at all the night before. After my conversation with Rebecca, I'd gone back to our room and found Curtis still awake, waiting. We're leaving tomorrow, I told him. First flight out. He'd nodded, relief flashing across his face. Good. Rebecca had come to the airport to see us off, eyes red and swollen. Sophie had hugged her tightly, confused and clingy about the sudden change of plans. But why can't Mom come with us? She kept asking. Mom has to finish her work here, I told her, the lie sour in my mouth. She'll be home in a few days. Curtis had barely acknowledged his mother, just a stiff, one-armed hug before walking onto the plane without looking back. Now, as the plane began its descent toward home, my mind spun with what came next. Separating our lives, telling Sophie the truth in a way she could understand, facing family and friends and their questions. Dad? Curtis's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Yeah, buddy? You okay? His concern, so mature and genuine, tightened my throat. I will be, I said. We all will be. He nodded, apparently satisfied with that. What happens when we get home? Is she coming back? I sighed, choosing my words carefully. She'll come back to the house, yes. But things are going to change. Your mom and I need to figure out what's best for everyone. You mean divorce, he said bluntly. Maybe, I admitted. I don't know yet. But whatever happens between your mom and me, nothing changes how much we both love you and Sophie. That part stays the same. He was quiet for a long moment. For what it's worth, Dad, I think you're doing the right thing. We deserve better. His words, too wise for his age, were both heartbreaking and strengthening. He shouldn't have to carry any of this, but his resilience made me proud. When we landed, Sophie woke up almost immediately and started asking for Rebecca again. Each mention of her mother was a fresh reminder that our lives would never be the same. 3 weeks later, Rebecca and I sat across from each other at our kitchen table, divorce papers spread out between us. She'd moved into an apartment downtown. Curtis still barely spoke to her. Sophie was slowly beginning to grasp, in her 10-year-old way, that Mommy and Daddy weren't going to live together anymore. I never wanted this, Rebecca said quietly, pen hovering over the signature line. Neither did I replied. But here we are. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? She asked. Her eyes, once so familiar, now looked like they belonged to someone I didn't know. I thought about it for a moment. Someday, maybe, for the kids' sake. But some things can't be undone, Becca. She nodded, accepting the truth of it, and signed her name. As I watched her walk out the door, I felt something I hadn't expected. Lightness. The pain was still there, raw and deep, but for the first time since that fateful day in Boston, I could see beyond it. A future that was different, yes, but still a future. A new beginning for me and my children. We would be okay. Not the same, but okay.